100 years ago, New York State signed women's suffrage into law. Also, 100 years ago, Starlight Park originally opened as the Bronx International Exposition of Science, Arts, and Industries. Well, you got to ask the question, well, what do these two actually have in common? Well, two exhibitions at the Museum of the Bronx History celebrating these centennial events. And we got some people here to tell us about it more. And we've got Angel Hernandez, who's the Director of Programs and External Relations at the Bronx Historical Society, and Vivian Adams, Education Coordinator. And we welcome you both. And as we talked about, somebody with 102 years of age and now go back to 100 years, a lot of history right here.
Right. So we are celebrating women's suffrage in New York City, and centennial celebration, that's the name of our exhibition, highlighting women's suffrage, 100 years of women's suffrage in New York State, as well as the ratification of the 19th Amendment. So we're highlighting suffragists in the Bronx as well as in the United States, and doing some highlighting of some suffrage movements that happened in the borough.
So what are some things that we really don't know that maybe you can share with us?
Well, talking about Starlight Park, we thought it was exciting to have a dual exhibition happening at the Museum of Bronx History. We're meeting both anniversaries, the suffrage passing into New York state law, and Starlight Park, which was a reminder of the heyday days of amusement parks in the Bronx. This was before the advent of television, air conditioning. People spent a lot more time outside. In 1918, it was also when the borough was undergoing this development stage. You had the subways coming into the borough. So there was a lot going on, and Starlight Park was located at West Farm Square, which was the hub of pretty much the Southeast Bronx for the trolleys and whatnot. So it all ended, this whole craze with Freedom Land that closed it in 1964. But at the Bronx County Historical Society, we just like to make sure we remind people of the rich historic heritage of the Bronx, and also in recreational phase as well.
And when we talk about the suffrage movement, obviously we said it's 100 years the state signed the suffrage into law. Tell people what they'll be able to get a glimpse of and see a little bit.
So we're doing it chronologically. We're starting with the Seneca Falls Convention, which happened in July of 1848, and that pretty much jump-started the suffrage movement. And you had Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who was at the helm of the movement, and she's actually buried at Woodlawn Cemetery, as well as many other suffragists like Alva Vanderbilt Belmont. You have Carrie Chapman Catt as well at Woodlawn. So we are highlighting these women as well as the movement throughout history, and kind of culminating at the 100-year mark.
Right.
And so for people who want to take part in this, what do they do?
Well, they can go on our website, bronxhistoricalsociety.org, and find out the information. Tomorrow is actually the opening for the two exhibitions. It's at the Museum of Bronx History. We're located at 3266 Bainbridge Avenue. You can also call us, 718-881-8900. And tomorrow's exhibition opening is free. It's from 4:30 to 7. And I just wanted to throw in one more tidbit about women's history in the Bronx. But one of the very first suffrage walks to Albany in American history was started by a person named Elizabeth Freeman. And it started at 262nd Street, right outside of Van Cortlandt Park. So we have some history there as well. The headquarters for the women's suffrage movement was on 149th Street. So we have a lot of information that a lot of Bronxites and New Yorkers don't know about. So this is what we do, and we enjoy sharing that.
That's what I was just getting ready to say, because when you said 262nd Street all the way up to Albany, my initial response was like, wow.
That's a long walk.
A long walk, and there's some information that we just really don't know. Do you find that people who come in really don't know the great history?
Not at all.
Absolutely not, and that comes from Bronxites mostly. But, this is a busy borough, right? This is a working class borough. Everyone is just busy living their lives. So we're there. We're always going to be there. The Museum of Bronx History was built in 1758. We're going nowhere. We're going to be here forever. So whoever wants to learn more about their history, their own personal history in the Bronx, they could just feel free to pay us a visit.
So for people who want to know more about the suffrage movement, they can just go ahead and call what?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They can come to the exhibition, which is running for a year. This is one of the few exhibitions that's actually lasting an entire year, of course. But also on Sunday, May 20th, we are having a women's suffrage in New York City symposium happening at Woodlawn Cemetery. And it's a full day of programming, including panels, a morning and afternoon panel. We have a book talk. We have a keynote speaker, which is Elizabeth Cady Stanton's great-great-granddaughter, Colleen Jenkins. So we're very excited about that program coming up. And you can get more information by going on our website or through Facebook or giving us a call.
Yeah. And when we talk about, so you got some dates coming up. We've got April the 12th, which is, and through April 11th, that's going to be the whole year celebration of the women's suffrage into law. So you can have an opportunity to check that out throughout the course of the whole year. And it's not something that you normally do, having an exhibition out for a whole year.
For a whole year, no.
No, so obviously we want people to come out and take part of that. And then also to take part in any of these community events because, as you say, knowing Bronx history, there's a lot of history that's right here in the Bronx. Give us another quick tidbit before we go. Something that maybe folks don't know that maybe we could just enlighten the Bronx. I know so much. We give you a whole show just on it, but I'm going to let you get down to it.
Well, right now, Vivian is going to have a tour at the Edgar Allan Poe Cottage. Next week, we're doing a cemeteries tour with Woodlawn. A cemeteries tour, Bronx cemeteries. And we're visiting all the ancient cemeteries of the Bronx, dating back to colonial times, rather. So there's a wealth of information on these type of tours that people don't know about. Just last Saturday, I led on the very first time. The trolley has the Woodlawn Cemetery has a new trolley, and it's the very first time they brought it outside of their grounds. So I took people to all the breweries of the Bronx, and they had no idea that we had such a rich historic beer brewing legacy here. And that started with Germans in the 1870s. So one of the highlights of the tour is we actually stopped right outside the old courthouse on 161st Street. And if you look to your left, up the hill, you would see one of the last standing breweries in the Bronx, original German breweries. And it's the Hupfield Brewery. It was built in 1868, and it's still standing on Eagle Avenue, right off of St. Anne's. People were amazed. They were so amazed they wanted to go inside, but it's kind of abandoned.
Yeah.
So there's a wealth of information, but it's also a surprise. We like to catch people off guard and say, what? Did he just say, Winston Churchill was Leonard Jerome's grandson? Did he really say that? So there's a lot of information, and if you want to learn more about it, come on our tours.
Amazing history right here in the borough of the Bronx. Thank you both for coming and sharing with us.
Thanks for having us.
Of course, we want you to take part in this, and you can go to www.bronxhistoricalsociety.org, find out more information there. Thank you so much for coming and sharing.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.